Hello my friends, every time Fallout gets mentioned on the internet, there is always at least one comment saying the same thing. Microsoft should give the franchise back to Obsidian, we need a New Vegas too, Bethesda doesn't know how to make a decent Fallout game. And sure, there is no doubt that New Vegas is the best Fallout game made in the modern era, but hear me out. You actually don't want a new Fallout game from modern Obsidian, and here's why. What made New Vegas a cult classic? Many of you will say that it's a perfect mix of strong main story, rich world building, meaningful side quests and real player choice. And of course, a world that actually reacts to your actions where every decision carries weight and you'll be right. That's the famous Obsidian RPG formula, the one we all love, the same formula that Obsidian itself hasn't been able to fully reproduce in the 15 years since New Vegas was released. Now I'm gonna say something very controversial, but New Vegas wasn't genius by design. It was a lucky coincidence of talent, timing and circumstances. A rare perfect storm, something that only happens occasionally in the game industry, and I'm gonna prove that. Let's dive into Obsidian history. If you're a Fallout fan, you probably know that Obsidian Entertainment was founded in June 2003 by former Black Isle developers, just a month before Black Isle Studio itself was shut down. At that time, Black Isle was a division of Interplay Entertainment responsible for the original Fallout and Fallout 2. Soon after that, Interplay began collapsing financially, the company went bankrupt and started selling off its intellectual property. That's how the Fallout franchise ended up in Bethesda's hands for just $5.75 million. After the massive success of Fallout 3, Bethesda shifted its main focus to Skyrim, but they didn't want to put their newly acquired and highly profitable IP on hold, so they made one of the smartest decisions in their history. They trusted Obsidian to develop a spin-off. Why Obsidian? First of all, thanks to Todd Howard. He was a long-time fan of the original Fallout games and one of the people who pushed Bethesda to acquire the franchise in the first place. Second, Obsidian was founded by developers who had worked on Fallout 1 and Fallout 2. They understood the DNA of the series. And third, by that point, Obsidian had already proven itself with Projekt like Knights of the Old Republic 2. They built a reputation for delivering strong RPGs under difficult conditions. So when Bethesda needed a studio they could trust, there was only one real option. As Todd Howard later said, they were the only choice. Shortly after that, Obsidian submitted a 3-page pitch to Bethesda for the project. They called it Fallout Sin City, a name that would later become Fallout New Vegas. The inciting incident of the story, the player being shot in the head and buried in the shallow grave, was already there in the first pitch. Bethesda approved the concept, but they added one crucial condition. The game had to be built on the Fallout 3 engine. Most likely this was done to shorten development time to about 18 months. The Gamebryo had already all necessary tools for a third-person action RPG, and it guaranteed that the game would still feel and look like a Bethesda game. And I want you to remember this. Obsidian made New Vegas on Bethesda's engine, because working with Gamebryo, later known as the Creation Engine, had a massive impact on how Obsidian would develop games in the future, and we'll come back to that later. So, who was responsible for New Vegas' most memorable questlines and decisions? Let's mention some names. One of the key figures behind New Vegas, and probably the most famous, is Chris Avellone. He was one of the founders of Obsidian Entertainment and a former Black Isle developer who worked on Fallout 2. He authored the original concept of a courier being shot in the head, which was successfully pitched to Bethesda. He also was responsible for writing several major characters and quests, including the company Rose of Sharon Cassidy, and of course, served as project director and narrative designer for my favorite DLC, Dead Money. Another important person is John Gonzalez, the lead writer of New Vegas. He wrote the entire main storyline, including the characters of Benny, Mr. House, KSR, Yes Man, and the ending at Hoover Dam. And do you remember Beyond the Beef? That's one of the most praised and variable questline in the game. It was written by Eric Fenstermaker, who was responsible for everything related to the Ultralogs and the White Glove Society. He also worked on the One for My Baby and Vault 11. So why am I mentioning all these names? What do they have in common? You probably guessed it, almost all these talented people left Obsidian a long time ago, except for John Gonzalez, who returned in 2025. And it's not just them. Joe Sanabria, lead artist, was laid off in 2011. Mark Birmingham, lead animator, no longer works at Obsidian either. To understand the full picture, it's estimated that between 50 and 70% of the core Fallout New Vegas team has left the company over the past 15 years. And this brings us to the real question: what does modern Obsidian look like today? When the Outer Worlds was first announced with the tagline from the creator of Fallout New Vegas, many fans were excited excited. Finally, a proper RPG from Obsidian on Unreal Engine 4. No more Bethesda deadlines, no more broken Gamebryo, no more technical excuses, no more limitation. This was supposed to be their chance to create a true masterpiece. And when the Outer Worlds was released, it looked like a Bethesda game made on the creation engine, not in a good way. Small locations separated by loading screens, NPC with no schedules, no meaningful day-night cycle, no behavioral changes, most characters permanently changed to one spot. Ironically, but New Vegas, built on a buggy, outdated and heavily criticized engine, felt more alive than a game released 9 years later on modern technology, and this pattern kept repeating. If you played Evolved or The Outer Worlds 2, you'll notice something interesting. Obsidian still delivers excellent level design, multiple paths, smart skill checks, real RPG mechanics. From a systems perspective they are still strong, but that's where it ends. The storytelling is weak, side characters are forgettable, even now most players can only remember Parvati and almost no one else. This is the same studio that once gave us Mr. House and Caesar. The art direction in The Outer Worlds is also painfully uninspired. The world is visually unappealing. You don't want to explore it. Those cliffs look like leftovers from Mass Effect Andromeda. Everything looks really artificial. Except for Pentiment and Grounded, Obsidian's recent games feel like boiled chicken without seasoning. Yes, it's edible, yes, it works, but it gives you no pleasure, and here's the real problem: they don't evolve at all. Look at Larian. Each release is better than previous one. You can feel the growth when you replay Divinity Original Sin after Baldur's Gate 3. Look at CD Projekt Red. They started as a small Polish studio with about 100 employees during The Witcher 1, and today they have more than 800 people working on The Witcher 4. They grew, they invested, they improved. And I want the same for Obsidian. I want them in the major league, but instead they seem very comfortable under Microsoft wing. And with recent reports that Avowed and The Outer Worlds 2 failed to meet expectation, I'm not even sure they say firm closure. So what do you really have in the end? Fallout New Vegas was possible because of several unique factors. First, Todd Howard pushed Bethesda to acquire a Fallout franchise from Interplay. Without that, the series might have disappeared like many great IPs from 18 and 90s. Second, Todd chose to trust Obsidian and share Bethesda's engine. And third, and most important, New Vegas was made by veterans of original Fallout, people who understood the DNA of series and people who wanted to do justice to the cancelled Van Buren project. They delivered the best they could, and today most of them are gone. They don't work at Obsidian anymore. Modern Obsidian is starting to resemble BioWare, a famous name but without the people who made it great. So is today Obsidian capable of delivering a truly great Fallout game? I think the answer is obvious. No. Which means that for the foreseeable future we are stuck with modern Bethesda Fallout, whether we like it or not. Bye.